Hi, folks. This is your friendly neighborhood Mr. Thomas, and I am going to walk you through Project One Media Management for DMPT 2600 Basic Editing. As I said in the project assignment sheet, one of the first things you have to do once you get to that coveted position of an assistant editor is you must organize all of the source clips for the editor in the project panel. And there are lots of things you need to do to organize the source clips of the project panel. And I'm going to demonstrate what you have to do. You want to do exactly what I do in order to complete project one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and launch Premiere. You can see it's already going. And I am going to, let's go ahead and start a new project by clicking new project. Let's call this project, I'm going to call it project one underscore, and I'm going to give it my last name to create the project file. And I'm going to save it. I'll just save this in an easy to find place on my desktop. Normally that's not what you want to do, but in this case, because I'm just going to do it for demonstration, delete it directly afterwards, saving files on my desktop like this would not necessarily be such a bad idea. Everything else here looks fine, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Also, my scratch discs look fine as well. So I'm in Premiere, have the Premiere Pro setup here. All of the work I'm doing is going to be in the project panel, this panel at the bottom left-hand corner. So as you know, I'm going to make this panel full screen by making sure it's active. It has the blue highlight around it, and then pressing the tilde key or the grave key. It's in the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard. And what that's going to do is that's going to make that project panel, it's going to make it really the whole frame with media browser, the media browser panel, the libraries panel, the info panel, and so forth. Make that whole frame full screen so it's easy to see everything. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to import the media that I provided to you. I gave it to you via Google Drive. You want to make sure you have 18 source clips. 18 source clips, okay? You want to make sure you have all of them so you can complete the project. In this particular case, I'm going to go to the media browser to import my files because I can do it very easily from the media browser. You see the media browser tab here. If I click on that, it opens up the media browser panel. And I have the files that I'm going to import on my Star Child hard drive. And you can see the index on the left-hand side. It allows me to quickly go to where my files are. I can click on the Hope Dialog bin right here within the Star Child hard drive. It's highlighted. And in the main window in the media browser, I see all 18 of the files. Great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click to select the first one, press shift and hold it down, click and select the last one. So I've multi-selected 18 clips. Okay. And I'm going to control click any one of the selected clips and choose import from the contiguous or from the shortcut menu that pops up. Bam. So now it's thrown me back into my project panel here. And I have all 18 clips here in the project panel. One of the things I'm going to do first is, as you can see, I have something called a slate at the beginning of each one of these thumbnails. These thumbnails are actually called poster frames. It's like the still image at the head of the thumbnail that kind of shows you what the clip is all about. All right. One of the things I'm going to do, and it doesn't really say this in the project assignment sheet, but this is a good idea that you know how to do this, is I'm going to make this thumbnail, make each one of these thumbnails more representative of what's really in the clip. Because as you can see, I'm going to scrub through this. You can see it starts off with Roth sitting down by himself, but eventually it goes to Ann and Roth sitting down talking. And that's mostly what the shot is about. Okay. The name of the shot or the shot label is 1E1, scene one, camera setup E, take one. Okay. And it is 2 minutes, 15 seconds, and 9 frames long. I know there's audio included because I have a little audio waveform there. All right. So what I want to do is, instead of seeing that as my thumbnail on the project panel so I can really quickly and easily figure out, see what it is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the thumbnail, change the poster frame for this thumbnail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the project panel menu icon in the upper right hand corner of the project panel tab, and then go down to preview area. And actually, I'm gonna do something else. Instead of I'm in icon view right now, I'm gonna go in a list view and watch what's gonna happen. When I go in a list view, I lose all of my images, my thumbnails, and I get these icons. These icons are really nice because it tells me that, you know, not only that it's a movie file that has picture and audio with the film strip icon and the waveform icon, but it gives me all kinds of metadata about this clip, this source clip. We call these source clips when we import the clip into the Premiere Pro project panel. I have all kinds of metadata. All metadata is information about that clip. How long is the clip? Media duration, 2 minutes, 51 seconds, 25 frames right here. What's the resolution or the image size? 720 by 480. Okay. What's the audio sample rate? 48,000 hertz, 24-bit. Okay. So the idea is metadata is just information about each one of these clips, and I can look across horizontally at these columns with labels at the top of the project panel's clip area here, source clip area, and I can just cross-reference each source clip up with the correct column, and it'll give me the information that I need to know. Okay, so I'm in list view. Once again, I don't have the thumbnails. Say you're the type of person who likes the thumbnails, you can kind of look at the picture and tell what the clip is all about. If I look at my preview area up here at the top, I see that thumbnail that I had before when I was in icon view, but once again, I have that slate in front of his face, and I really don't get a really good idea of what the clip is all about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change to a version of the project panel, which is a hybrid. It is a cross between the icon view and the list view, because both are useful. Actually, list view is much more useful than icon view. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the project panel menu again, click on that. Let's go down to thumbnails. When I click on thumbnails, as you can see, all of those icons turn into thumbnails, kind of like what we had before. But I still have my metadata. So now I have the best of both worlds. By the way, I can make my thumbnails bigger or smaller by dragging my size slider, my zoom slider down here at the bottom left-hand side of the project panel. Okay. And so now I have all my labeled clips, all my labeled source clips, and I also have my metadata, which is great. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly and easily, like I said before, set up a better poster frame, something that doesn't have the slate in it that gives me a better idea of what the clip is all about. So what I'm going to do is, you see your preview area up here at the top, okay? What you want to do is you want to make sure you have the clip that you want to set the poster frame for selected in the project panel, and then I can either hit the play button and it'll play through the clip, or I can drag this little tiny playhead in the preview area and it will kind of let me scrub through the clip. All I'm looking for is a great representative frame, a frame that kind of tells me what most of the action in this shot is all about, in this shot 1, 2, okay? That's a master shot, by the way. I'm gonna click the poster frame button, which is the camera icon. Now look at what happened down here in my source clip in my project panel. Now that's a better representation of what that clip is all about. I can immediately look at this thumbnail and tell you, okay, I know that's a master shot. I know both Roth and Anna are in it. I kind of know the angle and the position of the camera. Let's go to the next one, 1/4. Select that, do the same thing. Okay. I'm gonna use this one. I'm gonna scrub it until they're sitting down. Okay. Hit the poster frame button. I'm gonna go back to this first one and reset the poster frame to when they're sitting down, because I kind of like that, because like for over 2 minutes they're sitting down talking. So that's the major action of the scene. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go to 1A2. It's the same shot. And you'll say, well, hey, why does 1A2, why is 1A2? It looks just like 1/4 and 1/2 as far as the wide shot of Anna Roth. Why does it have such a different label? It has a letter, 1A2. Well, people who made this film, this particular part, their numbering system, they messed up. Master shots, which are shots that are wide enough to show you most of the location, or at least all the major characters that are involved in a scene. One of the ways that you can shot label them is to use a number at the beginning. In this case, it's the one. That tells me the scene number. Okay, what scene number is this in the film? This is the first scene. A scene is defined as everything that takes place at the same place, in the same time, or during the same duration within the story of the movie. Okay, this second number behind the dash is the take number. So this is 1 2, or 1 take 2, 1 take 4. What happened to 1 take 1 and 1 take 3? I don't know. We just don't have those shots. So we didn't get all of them. We just got some of them. So this should be, instead of 1 take 2, it should be, because it's identical to 1 2 and 1 4 as far as the shot angle, it should be 1 5 or 1 6 or 1 1 or something. But it certainly should not be 1 A 2. But we're not going to change it for now. We know that these 3 shots are masters. So one of the first things I'm going to do in organization is I'm going to color code. You see these little color labels here out at the edge? Those color labels are, they're going to come in handy a little later on, but it gives me a way to color code and keep track of what type of shot these are. Because each shot that we're going to work with fits in a specific category. Okay, this particular category of shot is called a master shot, as I said before. So I'm going to color code it mango. Before I do that, I'm going to go to the Premiere Pro menu and then go to Preferences and go down to Labels, because I did some work with this before, and as you can see, I made some changes to the names. But as you can see, here are all the colors that I have access to. All right. I'm changing the names back to their original names for the colors, because you see I kept the original colors: cerulean, violet, iris, but I also added some information here, which is actually good information. I probably shouldn't erase it. Actually, let me hit cancel, because I don't want to erase that. Actually, I want to keep that. Okay, so I'm gonna go to preferences. Later on, we may talk about how you can go to preferences and change the name or change the color. But I know that I want these first 3 to be mango. So I'm going to select 1 2, 1 4, and 1 A 2, because they're all master shots. Okay, so I selected 1 2, press shift and select 1 A 2. They're all in a row. This is another great thing about being in list view. It'll stack all my clips up in a row, so I don't have to worry about fishing around to find the clips that I want, because they're kind of scattered in a bin in icon view, because icon view is not as organized as list view. I'm going to control click any one of the selected clips. I'm going to go down to the label submenu and go up to mango, because if you read the project assignment sheet, all of my master shots should be color coded. The color label should be mango, and you can see not only does it have mango, but I've also added master shot to that color name, just so it can remind me of exactly what the color mango is for. All right, so you can see, as you can see, those first 3 shots have the mango color label. The next 3 shots, 1B1, 1B2, 1B4, if you look at them up here, you can see it's an over-the-shoulder shot from Anne to Roth. I'm sorry, vice versa. It's an over-the-shoulder shot, because I'm looking over Roth's shoulder at Anne. It's an over-the-shoulder from Roth to Anne. Anne is the subject of the shot because I see her face. And so all of those are going to go in the same category, okay, or the same type of shot here, over the shoulder from Roth. And hey, let's look at 1C1 and say, hey, wait a second, it's just like the deal with 1A2 versus 1 2 and 1 4. 1C1 looks very different in its shot label than 1B1, 1B2, and 1B4. What gives? 1C1 looks very similar to 1B1, 1B2, and 1B4. Well, once again, the filmmakers made a mistake here. Because of the fact that the camera was not moved, okay, the alphabet should be the same, because the alphabet is the camera setup or the camera position on the set. Where you set your tripod down on the set, like if the first place you set your tripod camera down, your tripod on the set, set the camera on top of the tripod, and you take your shots from that angle, that would be the A setup, okay? That's where these letters come from. And now you can understand why that 1A2 is so wrong. Okay? Master shots don't get letters, master shots just get numbers. 1A2 would imply not only that it's not a master shot, but 1A2 would also imply that it's from a different camera setup location than 1.2 and 1.4, which it is not. Okay? So 1B1, 1B2, 1B4, and 1C1 are all from the same setup, and so they're all over the shoulder from raw to medium close up. And okay, so we're going to give them the same color label. But before we do that, let's go ahead and find some nice representative thumbnails here. Just something that shows you what this shot is primarily about. Get that slate out of there. You want to get in there so we can quickly and easily see what's going on. Okay, so we have these 4 shots. Let's select them all, okay? And I'm going to control click one of them. And let's go to label. And the over the shoulder from raw to Anne would be Caribbean. You see, I already have that. The color Caribbean. I added OTS, that's short for over the shoulder, from raw to Anne. Click on that, bam. And all 4 of those shots get color labeled Caribbean. All right, this shot 1D1, let's choose a better poster frame. See, that's a close-up choker of Anne. Okay, let's go ahead and just finish getting good poster frames. Okay, this one, this is a reverse of the B series and the C series. 1B2, for example, is over the shoulder from Roth to Anne. 1E1 is over the shoulder from Anne to Roth. See that? So 1B2 over the shoulder from Roth to Anne. 1E1 over the shoulder from Anne to Roth. Because those are like mirror images of each other, we call these shots together, we call them reverses. Sometimes they call them turnarounds, but we call them reverses. And they're basically matching over the shoulder shots that are like opposites, like flip sides of a coin. This is the most common type of shot that you will shoot on a film set. Reverses, over the shoulder shots, okay? Over the shoulder, looking over her shoulder at him, looking over his shoulder at her. The person whose face you see is considered the subject of the shot, okay? Let's go ahead and get us some more good thumbnails here, good poster frames rather, in here. Okay, these are not all identical. As you can see, 1G1 is different. It's a tighter shot than 1F1. They may have moved the camera a little bit. They may have changed the lens, which they should not have. But it's still categorized as an over-the-shoulder from Anne to Roth. They shouldn't have changed the lens if they wanted it to be the exact same shot, in other words. Now, if they wanted to be, they wanted 1G1 to be slightly tighter than 1F1, fine, change the lens. It's not that much of a difference, but just wanted to want you to notice that difference. So let's go to the next one, 1H1. This shot right here. This shot pretty much just shows Anne's hand and the coffee cups in Roth's hands. We don't really see Roth's face. We see a little bit of the side of Anne's head there, okay, right in here. But this shot, we're going to call this shot a, let's make the poster frame. We're going to call this shot we'll call it a cutaway, all right? It's a cutaway because it cuts away from the main action, which would be a shot of Roth's face or a shot of Anne's face. That's what we call a cutaway, all right? Keep on moving with our poster frames rather. Here's our clean single, medium close-up of the waitress, poster frame. Here is what we call a special shot. We don't get a slate in it, but it's a very special shot. We can only use this shot at the very beginning of the scene because of the fact that it starts with the camera above and behind Roth's head and it cranes down behind his head. We'll talk later on in Project 2 why this shot can only be used at the beginning of the scene. But it's a special shot because we use special equipment, and we call it a special shot because of the fact that it sets a tone or a mood. There's no dialogue in it. There's nothing that really pushes the story forward as far as story information per se. There's nobody's talking or anything like that. It doesn't push the plot forward per se. Okay. Same thing with 1M series. Okay. Let's set a Nice poster frame for that. By the way, anytime you see a shot with the word series behind it, what it means is that we're going to do the same action, whether it's craning up or down over the table. Um, or say, for example, it's a close up of a man and a man's hand, rather, close up of a man's hand as he picks up a pen. So all you see is his hand and his pen, and he scribbles on a pad. Okay. But the idea is that those shots are usually so short that it's not worth turning the camera off, doing a second take of it when they pick up the pen and do it again. Like if you say you want them to write it a little higher in the frame or whatever, it's not worth turning the camera off and turning it back on every time their hand enters the frame and writes with the pen. Okay, so as a result, we'll have his hand enter the frame, write with the pen, leave the frame, and then we'll say, okay, do it again. The hand will enter the frame, write with the pen, and leave the frame. And we'll do that as many times as we need to do it in order to get it right. We won't turn the camera off, but we'll call all of those tries together. We call that a series shot. A series shot. So we have the 1K series where we crane down on Roth several times without a slate or without turning the camera off and back on again. Same thing with the 1M series where we crane up from the table and into the air, and we do that several times without turning off the camera or without getting another slate. All right. This is another cutaway. All right. We're going to call that a cutaway. 1 in 1. This is, of course, a cutaway, very easily cutaway of the clock. This is a more conventional cutaway. This is like cutting away from either one of the characters and showing you something totally unrelated to the two characters. So, for example, if where most of the scene is cutting back and forth between the reverses of Anne and Roth, and then suddenly we cut to a cat that's sleeping on the bar, which is totally separate from Anne and Roth, that would be a cutaway. All right, we're cutting away from the main action of the scene. Okay, so I got a nice update. I got a nice poster frame for that. So let's finish doing our color labels. Okay, we have Anne, the close up of Anne, close up choker Anne. We have our poster frame. Let's control click it and go down to labels. We're going back to our color labels. Here it is right here. Where are we? Iris, close-up choker. Close-up choker of Anne. She's the only person who gets really a close-up choker. All right. So we got that color label, which is Iris, which is kind of a bluish purplish color. All right. And then these shots over the shoulder from Anne to Roth. Let's select all of them, which would go from 1E1, 1E2, 1F1, and 1G1. Control click any one of them. Go to label, over the shoulder from Anne to Roth. Make sure you choose the right one. Don't choose Roth to Anne. Use cerulean, over the shoulder from Anne to Roth. Cerulean is kind of a cyan type color. Okay. We have this cutaway. 1H1 is a cutaway, so I'm going to control click on that. And I'm going to go to label and choose. There's cutaway. I don't have it. Yep, at the bottom, cutaway. Color label for cutaway is yellow. The waitress gets her own color label. Okay. Forest is her color label. Once again, this 1K series shot, that's called a special shot. We're calling that a special shot. A special shot because of the fact that it's meant to set the mood and the tone, and we use special equipment, that crane, to get it. So Rose is a color label for that. Same thing with 1M series where we crane up from the table and Anne. Go to label, Rose, it's a special shot. Okay. And then once again, we have another cutaway, 1N1. So that's a cutaway. Cutaways down at the bottom there. Okay. And we have our most traditional cutaway, the yellow there. What am I doing? Oh, yeah. The cutaway of the clock, 1P1. Okay, now the last thing I have to do for this project is I have to organize these organize these source clips into bins. Now, there's more than one way to do this, okay? You can either say, I want to organize these source clips into bins named after the category, like master clip, over the shoulder from Roth to Ann, over the shoulder from Ann to Roth, um, cutaway. You could do that. That's a very useful way to do it. And most of the time, a lot of times that's what you'll do. Okay. But that's not the only way to label your bins or to organize your source clips in bins. You can also say, hey, I just want to make the bin labels. I want to label the bins so that they match the shot labels on these shots. Okay. There's only one exception, and that's with the master shot. Okay. So I'll have a bin called masters, and I'll put my 3 master shots in it: 1, 2, 1, 4, 1A2. So this is kind of like the first way. We'll use the first method of just labeling the bin after the category of the shots inside of the bin. We'll do that just for masters. So select those 3. I'm going to click and drag. One of the ways I can put these 3 source clips into their own bin together is to drag those 3 and drop it on the new bin button at the bottom right hand corner of the project panel. And I'm going to call this bin masters or master shots. We'll call it masters. As a matter of fact, let's be a little more specific. You can never be too specific. Let's call it scene 1 masters, so we know which scene these masters come from. Okay. 1B1, 1B2, 1B4. I know 1C1 is also an over the shoulder from Roth to Ann, but it has a different camera setup letter. It's these are B, that's C. Okay. So I know it may be kind of weird in that even though they're effectively the same shot, putting them into 2 different bins. But just to get used to this method of organization, we'll do this time. Maybe for future projects, other than this, you can use the method where you organize them by the category. Okay. And I'm going to drag those 3 clips, 1B1, 1B2, and 1B4. I drag them and drop them on the new bin button, and it put them inside of a bin. Let's call this bin the 1B bin. Okay. Give it the scene number 1 and the camera setup number, the camera setup letter B. Okay. Same thing with C. It's by itself. I only have one C series. A lot of times we call all the shots with the same letter a series. So we have a D series shot and E series shots. We have 2 E series shots, 1E1 and 1E2. Let's get our single D series shot and drop it on the bin. 1D, new bin button. Same thing with 1E2 and 1E1 and 1E2. That series. 1E. Okay. 1F is its own series. Once again, both 1F and 1G are both over the shoulder from Ann to Roth, but since they have different camera setup numbers there, camera setup letters, F and G, we put them in 2 different bins. Once again, another method might be, hey, let's just make a bin called over the shoulder from Ann to Roth and put 1F1 and 1F1 and 1G1 in that same bin. But, that's for another time maybe. 1H1, once again, it's going to get a bin called 1H. 1J. So this is a very organized way of doing it. You may say, well, it's not as functional as naming the bins after the categories, like cutaways or over the shoulder from Roth to Ann. It's not as functional, but it's a valid way of organizing things, because this is the most basic way. I'm going to show you this one first. Okay, and then drag over to 1P1 over to the bin, new bin button, and call that bin 1P. Bam! You're done. If I spin down each one of these, I just see all the shots nicely organized, just like that, and also color labeled. One last thing I want to do, actually, I want to label the bin so it has the same color as the source clip inside of the bin. So this first one here, If these, I can go down, I can control click on one of them and go down to the label again. If that's Caribbean, I want to have a Caribbean, 1B needs to be a Caribbean bin. Okay, 1B needs to be a Caribbean bin. So you can see I can color label the bins as well. Okay, so the 1B bin and 1B1 and 1B2 and 1B4 all have the same color labels. Let's do the same thing with everything. Okay, 1C, the 1C is also Caribbean. This is a Caribbean shot inside of it. 1D is iris. So let's make the bin color iris. 1E is cerulean. I think it is, right? Cerulean. Yep, cerulean. So let's make the 1E bin cerulean. Okay, I'm gonna close it up so I know I'm done with it. Okay, same thing with 1F because it's over the shoulder from Ann to Roth, cerulean. Okay, and also the same thing for 1G, the 1G bin. You see, they really messed up with this labeling, cerulean. The reason why I don't change the labels, you can say, why don't you just change them? The reason you don't change them is because if you look at the slate, and I'll just double click this to show you. If you look at the slate says 1G1. So let's assume 1G1 is not correct, like, the shot label isn't correct for F and G. You could really confuse someone who comes in after you, maybe the editor or maybe the director, if they see that, well, okay, the slate says, let's go back to G. The slate says, if they took a slate, they didn't even take a slate for 1G1, looks like. They didn't even take a slate. Let's try F. F. The slate says 1F1, but let's say you change that to 1E3, because that's really what it should be, 1E3. They called it 1F1 though, all right? So if they're like, well, hey, what gives? The slate says 1F1, but it says 1E3, that's confusing. So I say, even though they were wrong, what they did on set, in order to avoid confusion, stay with their wrong system and just maybe tell the director, hey, if you have any more to shoot, you might want to come up with a more consistent labeling process. And you can share the shot labeling process that you're using as an editor. Any good director will say, okay, great. I know that the shot labels and everything I do is primarily for the sake of the editor, and I don't want to give the editor any problems. So whatever works for the editor is what I'm going to do. Now you may say, hey, you're making a big deal over nothing. These are just a few shots. Yeah, this scene only has 18 shots in it. Now take a scene that may have hundreds of shots in it from different camera angles, from different camera setups. And then you may have a setup that, say for example, let's go to this one right here, 1E2, okay? Okay, it's 1E2, it's an over the shoulder from Ann to Roth. But if we were to do another take where we zoom in just on Roth's face, but we don't move the camera from that E position, the shot label would still say 1 because we're in the first scene, E because we're in the E camera position, A, B, C, D, E, the fifth camera position, but we can't call it 1E anything. We already have a 1E. Besides, if it's just a close-up of Roth's face, it's very different from this over the shoulder from Ann to Roth. What would we call it? We would call it 1EA, take 1. I'd get a second set of alphabets, the 1EA, and I'd start back over at A. If I did a close-up of just Roth's eye from this same camera position E, I would call it 1EB. Okay? If I were to zoom into his eye and see just his pupil from this camera position, 1EC, and so forth. Okay, now that's crazy. You'd never zoom in that far in a scene in a movie for the most part, unless you're doing a documentary on the human eye or something. But the idea is, you as an editor, you want to. It's funny because you have to be organized, but at the same time, you don't want to do anything that may throw someone else off, that may come behind you and look at this. Okay, so the waitress, going back to labeling our bins so that they match our our source clips inside of the bin. The master shot 1K bin, that's Rose. this is 1M. Once again, the master shot on the inside of it is, that special shot once again is rows. So let's go to rows. Okay. All right, this shot right here is a cutaway. So let's yellow, make sure the bin is yellow. Okay, good. Okay, 1P, once again, yellow, cutaway of that clock. Pow, just like that. Okay, and masters, mango is the source clips are mango, and so is the bin, and it's already like that. Notice how I didn't call these folders, I called them bins. That's a convention from the film editing days where we would edit actual film, and we would have the film that we were editing, the parts of the film that we were clipping away that we didn't want to use it fall into like a little bin, and the parts that we wanted to keep were like strung up on fish hooks that were over the bin. So that's where the convention of bin comes from. So that's why we don't call these folders inside of Premiere. We call them bins. So that's all we have for Project One. I walked you through the whole thing. I did it in 36 minutes and 12 seconds, and that's with my explanation and taking lots of tangents. So it would take you maybe 15 or 20 minutes to do it. If you follow this process, you will do this exactly right. Okay? So that is project number 1, media management. I will see you next time in the next video. Bye.